This is the X-106 podcast. I am Sean Nienow here with Evan Brown, Ryan Elliot, and Trevor Maeder. Today we're going to be talking about college basketball, should the Chiefs make a change at quarterback, and our thoughts on the Super Bowl. College basketball. What do you guys think about the top 25 rankings that came out earlier today?
Well, I'm not surprised at all to see Gonzaga ranked number one. You know, last week you had kind of a cluster up there at the top. Or was it three of the top four suffered a loss? I know Kansas, Kentucky, and Nova all fell victim. So Gonzaga, 22-0. They're unbeaten right now, and they haven't really had a super tough schedule. So there's a very good chance they probably could go into the tournament undefeated.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went into the tournament undefeated. And I think, you know, Gonzaga, yes, they deserve to be number one right now. They're the only undefeated team in the nation. They're a historically powerful basketball team, but I don't think they're the best team in the country by any means.
Absolutely not. I mean, you look at their schedule, and they played an Iowa State team when they were number 21 really early in the year. They played Arizona when they didn't have one of their best players, Alonzo Trier, and beat them by, I think, 7. But then they haven't played a ranked team until January 14th in 21 St. Mary's. And I just don't think, I agree with everybody. They're definitely not the best team in college basketball, but they're sitting atop the land.
Yeah, and like you said, they beat St. Mary's, who's ranked earlier on the year, and a Florida team that's so-so, and an Iowa State team that, like you said, still trying to find its groove, and an Arizona team without Trier. So they've had some decent wins, but I'm not sold on that program. And you look at the remaining schedule, the only one they have left that will probably stand a challenge to them is St. Mary's. That doesn't mean there couldn't possibly be an upset happen, but the West Coast Conference is kind of shaky this year. Only a handful of teams above 500. So they don't play in a dominant conference. So, I mean, you kind of expect them to be 22-0.
Well, when you talk about the West Coast Conference, the only two teams in the West Coast Conference that anybody's worried about are Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and that's really the way it's been for the last
throw in BYU time. Some years, but for the most part, yeah. I mean,
Jimmer left a while ago, so we don't have to worry about BYU.
Didn't they have a year or two after Jimmer that they were
maybe, but I don't really pay attention to that conference. I'm not gonna lie.
It's the West Coast Conference. It's not a major power conference. It's not the Big East. It's not the Big Ten. It's not even the Atlantic 10 when you talk about power conferences in the NCAA.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But you look at the rest of the top 25 rankings, and just looking at the top 10, I feel like for the most part, I don't know that Baylor's the second best team in the country.
They're not, but we'll get to that.
Well, I mean, you're a Kansas fan, so of course you're going to say that. But, you got Gonzaga 1, Baylor 2, Kansas 3, Nova 4, Arizona 5, Louisville 6, Virginia 7, West Virginia 7, Kentucky 8, Virginia 9, and Wisconsin is 10. I feel like Gonzaga, Baylor probably or maybe top 10, but I don't know that I'd say they're...
Baylor, coming into the year, they were not ranked. So it's good to see that they, have beaten the teams that they've had to beat. And with a lot of the top teams going down, it's a bit easier to be able to sneak well. That's not quite the right word either, because they haven't been like, oh, look at us, we're just, climbing up. Because they've been good and they've beaten teams. But Baylor, they still have Scott Drew. And they're going to play Kansas on Wednesday. And I don't think it's going to go well because it never does whenever Baylor goes into Allen Fieldhouse. It just doesn't happen.
Well, and it doesn't happen for a lot of teams. When you go
well,
to
true,
Allen
but
Fieldhouse.
but I don't think they have ever won there.
And you look at their non-con schedule, though. I mean, it's respectful. Oregon, they ranked number 4 when they played. Michigan State, who's shaky right now, but it's still Michigan State. Louisville's a respectful program. Xavier. And then you go into the conference games. Iowa State by 2. They did only beat Oklahoma State by 4, and they got blown out in Morgantown against West Virginia. Did beat K-State by 9, and then they beat it was West Virginia that beat Kansas. My bad. So yeah, they haven't met Kansas yet in the round robin of the Big 12. But I think when you see them go into Allen Fieldhouse, like you said, it might be a little bit of a problem for them.
Yeah, and I checked that fact. The Baylor not winning in Allen Fieldhouse. It's true. They're 0-12. So that's including 7 losses in the Scott Drew era.
When was the last loss at Allen Fieldhouse? That's going back
when
while.
Marcus Smart did a backflip on the court when Oklahoma State beat Kansas.
That's been 4 years, 3 years?
Yeah, because they've won 49 or 50 straight games there, which is
That's
Whether
no
or
matter.
not the refs help them, that's not the question
Yeah.
here. But they just seem to win there, so that's
No matter which way you slice it.
Svi Mukalik had what was second rushing for Kansas this year. That one carry. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the Big 12, and a lot of people knock on the Big 12, but I actually, and I'm the guy that's not a Big 12 fan. I enjoy the Big 12 basketball product this year. Kansas, I've always been fascinated with how Huggy Bear runs West Virginia, and I think Texas Tech's a program on the rise. Oklahoma State's competitive. They just haven't been able to close out games. K-State's a borderline tournament NIT team. Being an Iowa guy, I always love following Iowa State. There's a lot of fun teams to watch in the Big 12.
I think if you look, though, at the top half of the Big 12, yeah, there are a lot of good teams up there. Baylor, Kansas, West Virginia, Kansas State. Those four are good basketball teams. But I think in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, we saw the bottom half of the Big 12 is where the weakness lies. The bottom half of the Big 12 is where, Kansas State took a tough loss in the game against Tennessee, and it was rough for the bottom half of the Big 12 against the SEC, a conference that's, let's be honest, not known for their basketball.
No, not at all. I mean, you look at the SEC, and they'll only have maybe a handful of
probably two,
tournament
maybe
teams,
three.
Kentucky and
Florida and South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, South Carolina's playing really
Yeah.
well. But, yeah, and you look at the rest of them. I mean, Arkansas 16-5. They haven't really played anybody.
Arkansas got beat by Oklahoma State by 28, so, that
I mean,
shows
they have all but three teams have a winning record, but the SEC, just like they do in football, don't normally tend to schedule super powerful non-conference games. I mean, how many years has South Carolina started out the regular season 13-0 or 14-1, and they get into conference play, and all of a sudden they're a totally different team?
Well, they went down to the wire against Missouri on Saturday.
Yeah, that's not something you want to have happen. I mean, Mizzou is awful. I mean, who's going to be the head coach at Mizzou in 2017-18?
Me?
You, maybe. You.
I don't know.
You're at a Division II
Who's
school.
to say? Now, I will say this. Kim Anderson has not had it easy at Missouri.
No.
He has, I think
Far from it.
I think if a couple of different scenarios shake out a different way, then we're talking, 2019, 2020 extension for Kim Anderson, that he's continuing to build a program, but things just haven't gone his way at Missouri.
I got a name for you guys to keep an eye on that could be Mizzou's head coach in 2017. Fred Hoiberg. I honestly
I'm not sure
I feel
about
like that's
that
a
one.
long shot, but I mean, his
I don't
name's
know,
always
man.
in the hat.
The
but
Bulls are kind of like
Bulls-
a huge dumpster fire right now.
the Bulls are a mess.
I think-
And then,
I think, though, there are so many better jobs in college basketball that I think he'd also be a top candidate
there's a chance
for.
the Indiana job could open up, the Nebraska job, something like that. I would be shocked to see him go out of the Midwest because he has ties to the Midwest, being from Iowa. So I don't know. That'll be interesting to see how that parlays, and there'll be a lot of other decent jobs open up. I'm sure, like I said, maybe the Indiana job, and who knows what silly season will transpire. No, last year we had a lot of coaches jumping from point A to point B. We had Jamie Dixon leaving Pitt for TCU.
That one was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because he went to TCU, but he was having a good job at Pitt there, so that was just a
and
bit of a weird jump.
And then Kevin Stallings left Vanderbilt to go to Pitt, and then Scott Drew's younger brother, Bryce Drew, went from Valpo to Vanderbilt, so a lot of moving around, as expected in the offseason. So we'll see where the chips fall there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Hoiberg either Indiana, Nebraska, or Mizzou.
Who do you guys think is right now in the top 10 or 15, the team that's going to come out, it's kind of a bit early, it's only almost the beginning of February, to come out and be like the team to look forward to up into the tournament, or, could go and win the entire thing?
I'm going to say UCLA. I like Lonzo Ball a lot. Bryce Alford has the ability to kind of take over a game with his shooting from time to time, and they score a lot of points. I know sometimes if you meet a team like a Virginia or something, you can run into trouble there, but they do a great job scoring points. So I like UCLA. I also like Kentucky with the way they can score points, but I feel like Cal hasn't quite molded his players into what they could be.
No, that was shown on Saturday when Kansas went into a zone and they just stopped. They just didn't know what to do. And Kansas does not go into a zone unless
That often.
it's dire and they just stuck with it the entire game. And Calipari's still a very good coach, but those players just couldn't adjust, and they just walked around. Well, okay, they just kind of like stood around waiting for something to happen. You're like, okay, and so then Kansas ended up winning, and I'm happy for that. But I still think, like as you said, that they can still be a very good team. They just take they're just going to take a bit longer, but that's kind of the way that they work anyway. They're like, oh well, we're like. I think they played 4 freshmen and a sophomore for their starting lineup. I mean, that's just what what they're doing now, and that's
how the Kentucky program works anymore.
And you look at a lot of their losses; they're all 4 of their losses. UCLA by 5, Louisville by 3, Tennessee by 2, Kansas by 6. So they're playing teams close.
Yeah. Tennessee the only bad
loss. So I think you could see them towards the later part of February, and then when we get into crunch time, you'll probably see a different Kentucky team than what you're seeing now, I think.
And barring any injuries, I think the team looking forward to seeing in the the tournament. I couldn't think of the word. It has to be the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, that they're having bigs problems. They don't have many bigs. They've got Tyler Lightfoot and I don't even know the other guy's name, Dwight Colby. I think.
Yeah.
And you got Landon Lucas, who's been struggling all year, but you look at the guard play. I mean, around the NBA, I know I'm comparing NBA to college basketball, but around the NBA, you see all these great backcourts. And Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, and Svi Mikhailuk. Are you kidding me? Like, and they have 3, 4, 6, 7 players out there at a time. And it's not something you see a lot because there's always that 7-foot shot blocker that's for Kansas. A Jeff Withey, a Cole Aldrich. A T-Rob, he wasn't 7 foot, but
he was close.
But looking forward to
Diallo a big guy?
Check Diallo, he was about 6'10".
He was, but he
the
was
wingspan of a pelican.
Well, I mean,
Embiid.
He was a pelican.
How'd you guys forget Joel Embiid?
I didn't. He was just there too short.
The one thing that I think is good for Kansas is they get that win over Kentucky when there's a lot of other things going on around that program that I think when we talked about Weekend Sports Kickoff Friday, Sean, I saw that as a distraction.
It was.
And I think it was, but they did a great job of.
You got to give it to Bill Self and the team for getting these young players through all that. I mean, I feel like the only player that is capable of getting through something that by himself is Frank Mason, just because he's been there for so long. He has the experience, and it's just a bad thing going on in Kansas right now, and you just hope that everything pans itself out.
And I think, Bill Self, like you said, probably is the guy for that. He's been around a long time and is a very respected head coach and, gonna probably walk into the Hall of Fame at some point. So if you could have someone in that situation, you never want that situation, you would probably want it to be, other than maybe Coach K or Roy Williams, Bill Self, I would say, yeah.
Well, and Self is a guy that's really changed his outlook on how to run a program in the last 5 years. You look at Kansas programs before 2010, it was you build in some kids that maybe aren't 5-star McDonald's All-Americans. You build them through 2 or 3 years, and then they become these senior leaders. You saw Mario Chalmers, Tyshawn Taylor, and Sharon Collins, a number of guys that have come through, especially in the backcourt in that program. But now, he's been more willing to take on that 5-star McDonald's All-American that might cause some problems. Carlton Bragg has caused some problems. He's willing to take on these guys.
Carlton Bragg might be causing more problems than he's worth.
But one name that I'm going to throw out there that he might pass, Brandon Green. Brandon Green was always in the doghouse. Carlton Bragg might just scurry his way in there because so he got caught with weed in relation to the rape investigation that was stemming from December 17th and 18th. So they basically just went to the dorm, looked everywhere like, okay, we have to make sure we get up all the evidence. And he had, I think, a pipe in there. And that's what he had. And so now he's suspended. Last year at the end of the year, he played a lot better. This year's been down for him, speaking.
You talk about, he's willing to bring in some of these guys with issues. You think about Cheikh Diallo. The guy had a lot of eligibility issues. I know they weren't his fault, but he did have eligibility issues. He's willing to work through these issues, and I don't know how much that's helping the program.
Well, and even you had problems a couple of years ago with guys that weren't 5-star athletes. I think it was Connor Frankamp, had a DUI, and that's why part of the reason why he ended up transferring from Kansas. If I'm correct, it helps that he was from Wichita State too. But yeah, I mean, he definitely had to change his coaching style, and to me, that's one thing that really defines how good of a coach you are. You look at like Tom Coughlin in the NFL with the Giants. He knew 10 or 11 years ago that the way he was doing things wasn't the right way. And he ended up figuring out what the right way was, and they won a couple Super Bowls. I'm not saying that means Bill Self's going to lead them to a national championship. I think they have the talent capable. I absolutely. If Kansas hadn't had a record in the last 10 years of totally busting my bracket, they would probably be my favorite this year. But I mean, it's still early to tell. We sat here last year, and you could pick 25 teams you thought could win it all, and the one everyone didn't bank on was Villanova, and then look who wins it all. So if you go by that logic, Gonzaga could be a favorite. It's really tough to predict.
It's hard to pick Gonzaga, but there's that potential there, and I think
it was hard to pick Villanova.
Well, and Nova's a program again this year that you can't sleep on. I mean, they're giving them a little bit more credit in keeping them high in the rankings, but people are going to talk about the loss to Marquette. People are going to say that's a bad loss. That's not a bad loss. That is, you're not going to go undefeated. It's not going to happen, not in a major conference. So to come back from that loss, then have to come home and face a tough defensive Virginia team.
The best,
to
basically.
Win, to win at the buzzer is huge, and that's something that, you show that test. You step up, even in playing a bad game, which they did against Virginia. It was 61-59 winning at the buzzer. To stand up to that test anyway, that shows something that they're going to be ready for the tournament.
I have one final question to wrap up this segment. What do you think is wrong with Duke, and how do you think they can fix it?
I think the big problem with Duke right now is Coach K isn't there. He took some medical leave, so it's kind of like, I heard this analogy the other day. It's kind of like when you have a substitute teacher, and you or when your parents aren't home, and you kind of run around and push the rules a little bit and do whatever you want. That's kind of what it is. I don't know what the solution is to it. As a Duke fan, Grayson Allen is – I love the guy and hate the guy at the same time. We were just talking about this earlier off the air, Sean. As a competitor and as a player, when Grayson Allen is on, he's on. But then there's other things he do that, to me right now, it says his mind isn't focused on basketball. No. And maybe that means Jeff Capel has to sit him out for a game or 2 or 3. I think, they came under a lot of backlash for how they handled the tripping incident where they said he was suspended indefinitely and then he was just suspended 1 game. So I don't know. I mean, Duke's still going to be a tournament team, more than likely.
They're going to be a sleeper team.
Yeah, and
I don't think they're going to drop that far. Once Coach K comes back, I think in like a few weeks they'll be okay. But I don't think it's just Coach K that needs to help that team, because it was last Saturday when this was 2 Saturdays ago when they were playing Miami. They had they pulled out Grayson Allen, Luke Kennard, and someone else who I can't think of off the top of my head. And Coach Capel just sat them down, and he started, some of the younger guys who seemed to care more. I mean, it's not care, but they just put more.
They played with more effort.
Yeah, and so some of these players, I mean, do they have the drive to go and win a national title? I don't think Coach K is the only reason that team's been bad, because even when he was in, they still lost to
he's not
teams.
The reason they've been bad. I think Coach K's had a long history of doing very well with some guys that may have had some questionable moral issues on and off the court. He may have met his match in Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is a kid that, he loves the game of basketball. He plays hard, but sometimes, as you said, sometimes his mind is not on the game. And when his mind is not on the game, he makes stupid mistakes, and he does not learn. He refuses to learn from the mistakes that he makes.
And I'm not sure if I want to make this comparison, but I'm going to do it anyway. I feel like Grayson Allen is sort of kind of the Johnny Manziel of college basketball.
Other than like the partying and that type of stuff, he needs to get some mental things under control before he can really step back
He's
out
got to
on the
be.
court.
He's got to be willing to learn. He's got to be willing to take what he's done and say that's have somebody tell him that's not the right way to do it, and actually take that to heart.
Yeah.
The reason I made that comparison is not because of all the partying and not for that comparison. It's because of I feel like he can't really handle the media and how the media is handling everything.
I think it's more the immaturity.
That definitely has something to do with it.
To. I don't know. When I see the tripping and stuff, and I'm not justifying it, a lot of people see it as dirty, and it is dirty. But I look at it as a competitor too, though. He knows by doing that, he's given them a little bit of an edge, whether or not it's right, wrong, or indifferent.
And the biggest problem that I see, though, is that his coaches then, after he trips somebody, his coaches pull him to the side and say, hey, I appreciate your effort, but that's not the way we do things around here. Mm-hmm. And then he's come out and do it time and time again. He's gotten into fights with other players. He's had some issues with the officials. And I think, it's not like this guy's a freshman.
No,
he's 21 years old.
Arguably supposed to be the leader on this team.
Yeah, he's a junior, and he came out of the national championship game and took over as a freshman, and everyone thought, man, this kid's going to be the next Christian Laettner. And Laettner had that arrogance about him, and Grayson Allen is the next hated Duke player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's
and I think
they seem to have those players. It just for some reason it's like Duke,
they're Duke,
white player.
That's why they're Duke. If Grayson Allen played at Georgetown or whatever,
if he played any school named Duke,
not named Duke, well, wouldn't be. If Grayson Allen played right now at Iowa State, wouldn't be having this conversation.
And I think Coach K knew how to deal with Christian Laettner.
Yeah, and I think I'm not even sure that he doesn't know how to deal with Grayson Allen. I think Grayson's just making it difficult right now. But you look at right now, guys, I'm looking at Joe Lenardi's bracketology, and we were talking about Duke. He's got Duke as a 5 seed.
Someone's going to get
which is no surprise to me.
Listen to this. The 1 seeds in his are Villanova, Baylor, Gonzaga, and Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll probably change because I think one Big 12 team is going to get in, whether it is Kansas or Baylor at this point.
And in Duke's region, Baylor's the 1, Kentucky is the 2, Florida State is the 3, UCLA's the 4, Duke's the 5, Creighton the 6, and 25th ranked Northwestern is the 7 seed.
That's a really tough.
I don't think that's going to happen because that's a very, very loaded bracket.
No, I don't look for it to happen, but that is a tough draw. That is, 1 through even Creighton could make a run. It'd be harder now without Watson.
Since they lost Watson, they've kind of dropped off because they lost to 20. They lost by 20 against Georgetown, and Georgetown's not exactly a world beater this season.
And Michigan State's an 8 seed. This
is going to be the year that they go far because they're not looked at as being like,
Michigan
hey, look at us, we're good.
Right where they want to be.
Kind of. You still kind of want them to.
But Michigan State last year, what good did the 2 seed give them? Getting upset by Middle Tennessee State?
But
name one player on that Middle Tennessee State team.
I can't because I barely watched
the game. Awesome name, great game, and it messed up a lot of people's brackets in my contest, but not mine. So I was happy.
Okay, well, this, again, is the X-106 podcast. I'm Sean Nienow. We got Evan Brown, Ryan Elliot, and Trevor Maeder. Coming up next, we are going to talk if the Chiefs need to make a move at quarterback and or whether it should be through the draft or through the free agency. Welcome back. This is the X-106 podcast. Right now, we're going to talk if the Chiefs should make a move at quarterback, and if so, when.
I don't think now's the time.
No.
I don't think, first of all, I don't think Alex Smith is the problem. I think there are a number of other problems that you put in front of Alex Smith, namely the lack of interior defense that couldn't stop the run late in the season. Now, with Derek Johnson out, but he's also getting old. He's not the same guy he was. Also, you talk about it, they've had a dysfunctional offensive line the last 3 years. They finally pulled it together late in this season, but you still have to think about there are some guys that are mix and match that aren't that great, and then the lack of another corner on the outside, I think, are three other areas that I would put in front of Alex Smith being the issue. So I don't think now's the time. I think you give him a few more years and try to build somebody under him.
I still would not be surprised if, say, a Deshaun Watson, I don't think this will happen, but say Deshaun Watson slides to them at 27, 26, something like that.
It'd be awesome.
It would be awesome. And the one thing John Dorsey has shown in his time here is normally they draft a year ahead. You know, they drafted Eric Fisher because they knew Brandon Albert was going to hit the market.
There was also nobody else to pick. Just saying.
Yeah, but and then you look at the next year, they draft D Ford because they weren't sure about Justin Houston.
Or Tom Bahali
Or Tom
point.
Bahali.
Yeah.
And then they draft Marcus Peters because you weren't sure what was going to happen with Eric Berry. You know, that was after his cancer treatment. Mm-hmm. And then you draft Chris Jones this year because you're not sure what's going to happen with Don Terry Poe. So to me, if a quarterback is there, and Smith's on a 4-year deal that is good through.
This is his final year.
Okay, I thought
and it's
so,
worth
yeah.
like $16.25 million.
It was a 4-year, $68 million contract. I remember that. So yeah, you got 1 year left on the contract. It's not like he showed such a dramatic decline that he's hurting your team that much in the first place. I kind of think what Ryan said. Alex Smith isn't the. I'm not saying he's not a problem on this team. He's not the biggest problem. I'd like to see us go with more offensive line. You talk about the interior line. Our linebackers are getting up there in age. I'd like to see help in the secondary. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Barry. Peters is great. Mitchell's came on great, but is that going to parlay into next year? You look at the running game. Are you confident that you can get where you want to go in late December, early January with Spencer Ware and Charkandrick West?
I love those two guys, but this, okay, when Jamal Charles went down, we're like, okay, what do we do? These two guys came in, great. This year's like, okay, this is cool, but then I didn't see a run game beyond maybe the first 2 weeks. And these guys are great, they're family guys, kind of, they're guys that you would hang out with, but I don't need to be your friend. I need you to run for 120 yards.
I mean, I don't really... I don't really care if you're an all-around great guy. As a Chiefs fan, I want wins. I want to see them win that Super Bowl. So, if a guy like a Dalvin Cook is there at the end of the first round, I hope they pounce on him. But it's just tough. I'm not saying they shouldn't take a quarterback. I know we talked about this earlier, Sean. They probably should at some point. But all these people that think Romo's the answer or whatever, please just shut up.
He's not.
You're telling me that you want a 36-year-old guy that hasn't played a full season, I think, since 2012.
Yeah, in 4 years.
Yeah, you're telling me you want that guy. Okay, what if Romo goes out in week 1 of the preseason in Seattle and breaks his back, and we go in
again,
and you go in with Tyler Bray? Are you confident that Tyler Bray is going to take you to the
Nope.
AFC West?
I am very confident that he will not. I will take Nick Foles over anybody else the Chiefs could have right now. Tony Romo, if he was healthy, I would take
2
hands
years
down.
ago. If it was Tony Romo 2014, I'd go, yeah, I'll take Romo.
Okay, yeah, give me that. But right now, I'm like, well, he's
too much of a risk now.
Yeah, if he gets hit wrong, then his career's done, and we're out a pick. And
he's going to want money. He's going to want a lot of money.
And that's the thing is, a lot of these people that are like, the Chiefs need to move on from Alex Smith. Okay, who are they going to get? Because you look at this year's free agent draft class. Let's look at these guys. Kirk Cousins, he's not leaving Washington. He's either going to get a bigger franchise tag or he's going to get paid. And I think Cousins is good. I don't think Cousins is great, but I think he's good. Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Nope.
He threw 7 picks or something against the Chiefs.
Yeah. Case Keenum?
Nope.
No.
Sean Hill?
Nope.
Matt Schaub?
Nope.
No.
Matt McGloin?
Nope.
EJ Manuel?
Man, nope.
We're looking at career backups here.
Blaine Gabbert?
No.
Do you guys want to relive the Matt Castle years? I don't.
I think he would be more welcomed here and the team because he is from Missouri.
Yeah.
They would be like, okay, cool. But
he's a backup.
Yeah, but if he had to be the starter, I'd be like, please, no.
Yeah.
I've already seen this story.
Matt Barkley, Brian Hoyer, Christian Ponder.
Brian Hoyer, other than against the Chiefs, didn't look horrible. That's
He was weird, and Barkley was like that with the Bears this year too. Barkley had a couple games where he looked good, and then he had a game where he was atrocious. So it's not exactly a deep free agent class.
No, you threw out a bunch of names that were all career backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Alex Smith is not necessarily an elite quarterback, but he's not a career backup. The guy is a starting quarterback in the NFL material. I mean, he set career highs in completion percentage and passing yards this year. You know, there's no sign of him slowing down.
Yeah, I mean, he did only throw like 16 touchdowns, but a lot of that is the offense. You know, we were talking about this earlier. More of it's the play calling. You know, and Alex Smith isn't a guy that's going to be like a Ben Roethlisberger and run around for 30 seconds and heave the ball 60 yards downfield. But that's because the offense isn't set up like that. Joe Montana ran the same offense Alex Smith did. Joe Montana didn't always throw the ball deep. Donovan McNabb wasn't exactly gunslinging it under Andy Reid. I mean, so it's just the way the offense is. And Alex Smith, to me, he can be really depressing to watch sometimes. When you see him take that 7-step drop and you see Von Miller coming off the edge and all you can say is, get rid of it, Alex, get rid of it, Alex. And then he doesn't, and you have an expletive afterwards.
Or when he does, like when the ball goes out, it gets tipped and then it gets picked. Or if you're at like the 4-yard line, first and goal, he throws a pick, you're like, why didn't you just run it?
Well, and the other thing that I know frustrates a lot of people is, 3rd and 9 throwing it 2 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I love check downs and screen plays.
We've seen enough of them. Why not?
That's the design of the offense, though. You put it in your playmaker's hands and you let them run with the football. I understand a lot of people don't like, well, you need 9 yards, throw it 9 yards. That's not necessarily the case.
No, but I mean, but it comes to a point where if on 7 3rd and 9s through the entire game and 6 of them are screen passes, okay.
I'm fine with
Andy,
a 3rd and 9 if Kelsey runs a post 6 yards in. I'm fine with that because I can trust Kelsey to get that 3 yards. But if we're throwing a screen to Albert Wilson on 3rd and 11 from the 47.
Or a 2-yard check down to one of the running backs and he's got 3 linebackers standing behind him.
Or when it's 4 minutes left in the game and we're playing Marty ball. I was at that playoff game and you just kind of had the feeling at halftime of, oh no, here we go again. I know I'm going to leave here with my heart ripped out. And
my biggest issue with that was, yes, the Steelers did a good job defending Tyreek Hill. But where was he in the second half? They did not give him the football. They ran that one jet sweep to the left side one time. It went for 9 yards and a first down, and then they never went back to it.
The one play that I remember, and it's not even – obviously it'll always be the Eric Fisher hold game. But the one play that I vividly remember is I want to say it was early part of the fourth quarter, and they were down, I think, 5. And Alex Smith had Travis Kelce wide open. Kelce catches that. They're at the least inside the 5-10-yard line, and that was on 2nd down. Goes right through Kelce's hands. They punt the ball. Pittsburgh goes down the field, kicks field goal. Kelce catches that. Even if they get a field goal out of that drive, that next drive, you're not going down 8. You're going down 5.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to make this comparison, but this year, Travis Kelce has reminded me the most he ever has of Dwayne Bowe.
Don't say that.
He can catch. He's caught everything within
that you're not
5
supposed to
feet
catch
of the outside of his body. You put one right on the numbers, and he doesn't know what to do with it.
It hurts.
You won't get argued on me. But, you look at, and then people say, well, why don't the Chiefs draft a quarterback? Okay. Let's look at the draft, the quarterback.
You just say like the top 4, because after that.
Mitch Trubisky, I wouldn't touch with a 10-feet pole. The guy hasn't played enough games, I don't think.
Although, mechanically, Trubisky is probably the most pro-ready quarterback in the draft.
But he's played 13 games in his college career. Deshaun Kaiser, Kaiser's more of a project, but Kaiser's ability to be like a Jameis Winston, I think.
We could do a project, though. I mean,
he's going to have to get more accurate.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson.
I would take Deshaun Watson at this point, hands down.
I would take Watson, but are you starting Watson week 1?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Patrick Mahomes?
No.
That guy is
Texas Tech.
You know who that guy reminds me of? Bryce Petty. You know how many people, when Bryce Petty came out of college, Bryce Petty's going to be the real deal.
No.
And then the Jets are still drafting him. The one that I do think is probably maybe the best, and he wouldn't be ready to play week 1, Brad Kaya of Miami, more of a pro-style passer. He's
And a guy that has the legs to move around. He's
he's
not going to run a 4.4, but
and then you get down the rest of them, and it's guys that are nothing but backups. Nathan Peterman of Pitt, Davis Webb of Cal, Chad Kelly, Josh Dobbs, my boy C.J. Beathard. Not anybody that I would expect to hand the offense over to day one. So whether you like it or not, we're probably stuck with Alex for another year.
I got to be honest with you, though. Don't sleep on Mitch Trubisky. He is a guy that, yes, he hasn't necessarily played more than one season in college, but there's a reason he's at the top of that list. All of these pro scouts are looking at him and saying, this guy, if you give him a year in the right system, could be an elite quarterback someday. He has the mechanics to do that.
The same thing about Bryn Renner of North Carolina, him going undrafted. So I'm not high on Trubisky. This is something about Jimmy Clausen. And Clausen had played a ton of games. Jimmy Clausen was supposed to be better than Sam Bradford. And Bradford hasn't been a Hall of Fame quarterback. Bradford hasn't been bad.
He led the league in completion percentage.
Yeah,
it was like 70-something%.
I mean, yeah.
He came into Minnesota and did what he had to do.
Yeah,
he was what the team needed.
Somebody
needed
the offensive
moving.
line was garbage around him, and Adrian Peterson was out, and it was just a
that
mess.
whole team was a mess after Teddy Bridgewater went down. They didn't know what to do with
like
themselves.
He's going to be out next year too.
Yeah.
Really?
Let's look real quick.
His knee. It was
pretty
one
bad.
of the worst injuries they had ever seen to a knee.
Too.
And even looking ahead to 2018 in the free agency, okay, here's the guys that are available. Drew Brees, 40 years old.
Nobody is taking a long-term shot with Drew Brees.
No.
Does anybody want to deal with the headache of Colin Kaepernick?
Nope.
He's not bad.
Yeah, but I'm not going to deal with that.
I don't know that he fits the Kansas City system either.
Matthew Stafford will never leave Detroit.
No.
Sam Bradford?
No.
Nope.
Josh McCown, Chad Henne, Drew Stanton, Brandon Whedon.
we can stop there.
And now we're back into the career backups.
Derek Carr will never leave Oakland.
No, not a chance.
I mean,
he's the cornerstone
Jimmy
of that entire franchise.
Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be in New England?
Someone's going to trade a lot of some things for
and
him.
it sounds like something the Bears would do.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big mistake.
The Browns are going to get him.
Matt Castle.
Castle for 1 year actually looked somewhat competent, and in the second year he wasn't incompetent, but he wasn't competent. And then after that, it was
he was awful.
He then fell into obscurity forever.
Fans booed him when he got hurt, which I never condone or promote. But
I remember that game. Who was the lineman? He was like, "You don't go out here and do that. We're not."
Was it Eric Winston?
Yeah, it was Eric Winston. Came out and talked after the game. That was weird to hear. But
looking at the quarterbacks in the 2018 draft class.
Oh, stop it. I'm just kidding. Go.
We're looking too far ahead. No.
Mason Rudolph, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, give me one more year of actually seeing him.
Lamar Jackson.
He's too small.
I don't think Lamar Jackson's an NFL quarterback.
No.
I think another year and we'll see.
Yeah. I don't.
And the one
I don't see it
is going to sneak up on people, Josh Allen.
He probably would have been the top quarterback this year, so I'll probably give him the top quarterback next year just because if you have another year.
Yeah. Again, like you said, you give Lamar Jackson another year maybe, but I don't see it with him. I see another one of those dual-threat quarterbacks that's just never going to make it in the NFL.
I see an RG3 just
But RG3's problem wasn't that RG3 couldn't play.
No, he just got his leg.
He was injury prone.
No, but I feel like that's the same problem with Lamar. I mean, he's going to try to jump over somebody, and Von Miller's going to come out of nowhere, and it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater's knees on Lamar Jackson.
You can't play the way he plays in the NFL.
No,
you just
guys
can't.
are too fast and they hit too hard.
The way Cam Newton's playing,
he'll probably be out in 5 years if he plays the same way.
And I think we'll see a different Cam next year, I hope, because I like the guy, and he's a very likable guy. But, if Cam keeps playing the way he is, this will be his 7th year. Guys like that play 11, 12 years, and they're done. Mm-hmm. Peyton Manning's played 18 because he played from the neck up most of his career. Tom Brady's in, his 17th season. Drew Brees
Not to mention
16.
Yeah, you talk about these guys that are the quickest to let go of the football.
Yeah.
If you make your decision and go, you're not going to get hit as much. That's just how it works.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard a lot of rumors about Big Ben considering retirement. I know we've talked about this.
There are 18 million reasons he is not going to retire. Because if he does, then that's how much he has to give back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And there's no one that's going to do that. They're going to be like, oh, hey, here's $18 million. No, you're not going to do that. I guess to wrap up this segment, what is the one spot the Chiefs need to fill going into this season?
They need to shore up the offensive line. There's a lot of holes in there, and you talk about getting rid of the ball quickly. I mean, that'll help Alex Smith get rid of the ball quicker. If he doesn't see three giant dudes running after him, he's not going to have to scramble and throw the ball away.
Yeah.
We need to get some better offensive linemen.
And I think
that's where I got to start it.
If you don't go offensive line, then probably defensive back. I like Marcus Peters. He's doing a great job. I like Eric Berry. He's doing a great job. Phillip Gaines isn't getting the job done.
I don't think I've seen Phillip Gaines play.
And Steven Nelson wasn't getting the job done.
Steven Nelson
Terrence Mitchell was okay, but I don't think he's an elite corner.
No, I think so too.
You need another shutdown cover corner on that other side.
Yeah.
From somewhere.
And you don't normally have two of those guys, so if they could get two of those shut down.
Or even a decent cover corner, because the guys that they've been putting over there with Gaines, Nelson, are not getting the job done.
Run-stopping linebacker.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that. So,
look, did you guys watch the divisional round game, right?
Yeah,
of course.
Derek Johnson would have made that game so much better.
Le'Veon Bell was not in that game.
I don't know.
It's a different game.
I don't know how much longer Derek Johnson's going to hold on to his status as an elite middle linebacker, though.
Yeah, he had a few tackles this year where he just couldn't bring him down. They just kept going.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he still makes some of those plays where you're like, oh, my goodness, this guy is
It looks like he's playing in Texas again.
Yeah, I want to see him make a move on the defensive side if they're not going O-line. And I look at a couple guys that I like. Tim Williams from Alabama. Alabama always cranks out good defensive linebackers.
They just crank out,
he can stop the run. He can be a pass rusher. One guy that I like that is maybe a little bit more of a pass rusher is Takaris McKinley from UCLA. They call him Tack the Sack, which is very catchy.
That.
And hopefully rings well to Kansas City. But you think about it, if you go with one of those guys, or maybe a Taco Charlton from Michigan, another great name. It'll be interesting to see what they do. And if we're on the offensive side, if the right running back falls there.
Yeah, that's going to have to be my pick at that point because wide receiver, you have Conley and Macklin.
If the right wide receiver falls there, which I don't think, let's say hypothetically, if Mike Williams falls to.
If Mike Williams fell out of the top 10, that means he had to smoke weed the day before
going into the draft.
Yeah. Well, I've seen good players drop, even when they do that. But if he did something,
that'll be interesting. That's for sure.
Well, coming up next here on the X-106 podcast, we are going to give our Super Bowl predictions. Welcome back. This is the X-106 podcast. I'm Sean Nienow, and here in the studio with me we have Trevor Maeder, Ryan Elliot, and Evan Brown. And guys, this is Super Bowl week. So, what are some of your predictions for the small game that's coming up in the next few days?
Both teams are going to score more than 35 points.
I hope so, but that's probably not going to happen just because of the way Super Bowls tend to work.
That's true, but bold predictions,
I'm going to say, as much as I'm going to be rooting against them, Patriots by 14. 2 scores.
Wow. It's bold.
Tom Brady has never had a Super Bowl that he single-handedly took over and dominated. Joe Montana had it. Steve Young had it. Peyton Manning never really did. I think New England wins, and I think it's big. I really do. I think somewhere along the lines of a 38-13 or something like that. And you look at this as I pull it up here. I know I threw this down on Weekend Sports Kickoff last week. The number one offense and the number one defense, scoring-wise, in the Super Bowl have met. I believe this is the 11th time, or this will be the 12th time. And of those 11 times, the number one scoring defense, it's 12 times. Number one scoring defense has won 10 of them.
Yeah.
And you look at some of those games, the only 2 outliers to that are when the Cowboys beat the Dolphins in Super Bowl VI and when the Jets beat the Colts in Super Bowl III. So it has happened in 45 years. some of those games were ugly. Super Bowl 1, Packers beat the Chiefs 35-10. Then you go to Super Bowl 19, the Niners beat the Dolphins 38-16. Game was never that close. Bucks Raiders, Super Bowl 37, 48-21. You know, if history repeats itself, Atlanta, as great of a story as that would be, closing out their old stadium and, new coach, Matt Ryan, finally, this could be, I don't want to say a legacy game for Matt Ryan. But
if he doesn't win this game, he's probably not getting into the Hall of Fame.
This could be the game that 15 years from now, when Matt Ryan's career is over and they're throwing, him as a Hall of Fame candidate, people can look back on and go, well, he beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl and he looked really darn good doing it. Or they could say, yeah, he made a Super Bowl, but he played like crap. Eli Manning's not a Hall of Famer if he's not winning 2 Super Bowls, probably.
No, without a doubt. He's not. No.
And last year, you look at last year's Super Bowl, what was everyone talking about going into that?
Offense.
It was Cam Newton's legacy. Cam Newton has the chance to etch himself into the history books, and then Denver said, "No, wait a minute," and they shut him down. So I feel like I'm with Ryan. I'm rooting for Atlanta because no one roots for New England unless they're playing Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh broke your heart the week before, which is where I was
still rooting for
Pittsburgh. I was rooting for New England. Steelers fans saw me cry, so I wanted them to cry. But I think Atlanta, they have an explosive offense, and their defense has been good at times. But New England is really good at taking away what you do best. Julio Jones, I'd be willing to bet money that Julio Jones does not have more than 50 yards catching.
How much money?
$5.
That is $5.
I'd be willing to bet $5.
That is
you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Julio Jones does not have more than 50 yards. I just... I'm not saying that means a guy like Taylor Gabriel might go off, or is it Austin Hooper that's their tight end, or I don't know who their tight end is.
I think it's Hooper.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. He might go out, or Coleman or Freeman.
Yeah.
They might have a good game, but
they have the weapons.
But I think if you're New England, do you want to get killed by Mohamed Sanu, who's a good wide receiver? Don't get me wrong, but he's not the same threat that Julio Jones is.
The worst that Mohamed Sanu can do is way better for the Patriots than the worst that Julio Jones can do.
The worst Julio Jones can do is
300
yards. Break the yardage
we
record
we saw him receive for 300 yards already this year.
Again by Jerry Rice.
Yeah, and so you talk about Evan's prediction that both teams score 35. I think if both teams score 35 or
then
more,
it favors Atlanta.
Yeah, I think Atlanta's the favorite in that situation because if Atlanta's scoring, yes, the New England offense is good, but this is not even close to the best New England offense we've ever seen. And if Atlanta's scoring, I don't think the Patriots can keep up.
No. I must say this is the first Super Bowl that I've ever predicted and been hoping like crazy that my prediction is wrong.
Bingo.
Last year I was, Carolina all the way. I thought Carolina would win by at least 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I was hoping they won by 5 or 6. That obviously wasn't the case.
Yeah, I think
New England. To me, this could be a Tom Brady legacy game.
Oh, if he wins the Super Bowl, he's undoubtedly the
there's
greatest
no
quarterback of all
I
time.
think he is anyways. That's just me. There are some haters, cough, cough, Devin Albertson, cough,
Yes.
that might disagree. And it's you're not wrong either way, as long as you don't throw out a silly name like Jay Cutler or something.
Matt Castle.
Yeah.
Matt
Castle. and
Osweiler.
it's him. A lot of people, in a lot of people's minds anyway, it's him, it's Joe Montana. They both have 4 Super Bowls.
If he gets that 5th,
if he gets the 5th, that ends the conversation.
What people don't
I don't
realize,
think it ends the conversation.
What people don't realize is Tom Brady is a David Tyree miraculous catch and a Mario Manningham tippy toe, or a Rob Gronkowski on a good ankle catching that Hail Mary from having 6 Super Bowl championships. We're not even having this discussion.
You could have just said he was the New York Giants away from having 6 Super Bowls.
And granted, you could say, well, the Tuck rule or Pete Carroll's bonehead move. That's not Brady's fault.
I think, I honestly do think it ends the conversation if he wins the 5th.
Absolutely.
Because he's got better numbers than Montana ever had.
Yeah,
There's no question about that.
That also comes from the fact that the game's
it's a different game. It's a different game, but with better numbers and more Super Bowls, there's no more argument
Super Bowls
to make.
are kind of the thing for quarterbacks.
They really are. That's why Dan Marino will never be the greatest quarterback of all time. Brett Favre.
But I don't think they don't show anything. No one's saying that Trenton Dilfer is an all-time great because he won. Or
the worst quarterback ever to win a Super Bowl.
And there has to be one. or Brad Johnson or Jeff Hostetler or even Joe Flacco. No one's ever going to say they're the greatest of all time. But like you said, Dan Marino didn't win one.
No. And he had, when he retired, he was numbers-wise, statistics-wise, the best quarterback of all time. But he will never be in that consideration because he never won a Super Bowl.
And you got to think Jim Kelly, he took him to 4. Jim Kelly wins 1 of those 4. He's up there in the conversation probably with Montana and Brady because he won a Super Bowl. He got to 4 of them and he won 1. John Elway got to 5 and only won 2. And Elway, those 2, he didn't really win by himself. He was 107 years old by the time he finally got to win one and had to rely on a running game and a defense. So it's, Tom Brady, it's crazy to think that this could be his 7th Super Bowl if things would have bounced a little bit differently.
And I think, so let's take it the other way. If Matt Ryan beats Tom Brady in this Super Bowl, is that the start of something big for the Falcons?
Maybe.
I hope so because they've had so many years where they were like, oh, look, we're going to start 5-0, 6-0. You get into week 10, it's like, okay,
Do we start?
You lost a few games.
Well, and Dan Quinn seems like a very players-on coach, and you saw a lot of that in Seattle, and that's one thing that might help Atlanta is Dan Quinn has been here before, even though it wasn't as a head coach. He's been here before. Where the kicker might be is that it sounds like Kyle Shanahan, their offensive coordinator, is probably going to have a Niners job. Otherwise, I would think they would.
He can go have all the fun he wants with that job at this point.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic for another day.
I think if Atlanta wins, we are ushering in a new era of elite team in the NFL.
Hopefully,
I hope so. But then the thing is, the window of opportunity in the NFL is so slim. The fact that the Chiefs have been there for 4 years is kind of remarkable.
The fact that the Patriots have been here for
16. There was the stat that they pulled out that since 2003, the only person that wasn't Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger from the AFC to be in the Super Bowl was Joe Flacco.
And you look at the NFC, and you'll have Matt Ryan this year, Cam Newton last year, Russell Wilson twice, Kaepernick, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Kurt Warner,
and in the
Rex Grossman for crying out loud. Jake Delhomme. So it's the AFC when Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger retire, the AFC will be a better place. I know that sounds awful, and it's nothing against those guys personally.
If not better, at least more interesting.
It'll be a lot, but it was, but it was like that in the 90s, though. I mean, with the NFC, once Montana retired and Steve Young retired and Troy Aikman and Dallas got beat up, and you throw Brett Favre in there, and then you had teams like St. Louis and Tampa Bay, and the Giants and Vikings had some good teams. It was a lot more fun.
Yeah, and that hasn't really stopped in the NFC. Like you mentioned, there have been so many different teams come in from the NFC, whereas you've seen the same 4 every year.
Yeah, I mean, how many people had
AFC?
Packers, Falcons, the NFC Championship this year? The Packers,
no one probably had the Falcons.
I think I had Cardinals, Packers.
Yeah, the one thing Atlanta needs to do is come out and establish the run game right off the bat. If you establish Devontae Freeman, that opens up the rest of your offense, and all of a sudden, you've got the Patriots on their heels.
They have the offensive line to do it, too. They've got – Dallas has the best offensive line, and then you could probably say Atlanta might have –
they're top 5.
You throw in Tennessee and Pittsburgh and Oakland.
But if they don't come out and establish the running game, that's it. You can call it right there. It's over.
So, I don't know. But real quick question. The greatest head coach in the history of the NFL is
Bill Belichick.
It's hard not to say Bill
Belichick.
Exactly.
And that's if he's not, who is?
You can consider Shula. He's got the most wins.
Andy Reid.
You can consider Bill Walsh.
The Lombardi, Landry. But outside of that,
I think it's more of a conversation than greatest quarterback of all time would be if they win. But that is now.
I don't think it's. I still you look at Belichick, and I know he's had Brady, but show me a Hall of Fame coach that has not had a great quarterback. Shula had Marino. He couldn't win with him. You know? Andy Reid's a great coach. I'm not saying Andy Reid's the greatest of all time by any means.
He is not.
Yeah, that was a joke earlier.
Yeah, no, I know. But, he might be a Hall of Famer. Maybe. But, Marty Schottenheimer's not a Hall of Famer. He's like the 4th winningest coach in NFL history. So it's is Jeff Fisher a Hall of Famer?
Please no.
Yeah. Well, and you look at Shula though. Shula's got some things to his record that Belichick doesn't. You know, he's got the most wins. He's got the undefeated season. You know, and yeah, Bob Greasy was not the greatest, not the greatest
Bob
quarterback
Greasy
of all
was
time.
Alex Smith of the 70s.
You know,
but
he won 2 Super Bowls with him.
The difference though, between then and now is Bob Greasy in the 70s. That was what quarterbacks were supposed to be. Alex Smith.
Yeah. I don't know that you would put him. I mean, but he was in that Bradshaw Staubach era that you don't really put him with those two guys.
No. Bob Greasy, if Bob Greasy played today, wouldn't be a Hall of Famer.
Not at all.
Well,
yeah. So I mean, I don't know, it's tricky, and I think as far as New England's legacy, I don't know that this game means a ton.
No.
Either way, I mean, regardless,
Tom Brady still, whether win or lose, is going to be top 2 quarterbacks, hands down. Without if he just died tomorrow, top 2.
Yeah, no,
hands down. Because he's not going to just oh, I'm done.
Yeah,
I can't play.
got you.
So that's the only way I can say it.
Yeah.
But Belichick's going to be there. He's just going to, they just do their job, and it's so angry to see because it's how do they do it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, the big question to me is,
I think if they played in the NFC, we might look at it a little bit different.
Maybe it's a different game. It seems like, but
it's different than it's a different conference. That's what I care about.
Yeah. Well, and you look at I think the big question for me is, after Brady leaves, what happens to Bill Belichick? Can he keep it going?
Or does he just retire?
After the Tom Brady era?
He could just
just retire.
He'd be he might. Well, I'm done.
He very well
might. Did go 11-5
with an 18-0 team, or an 18-1 team.
Yeah.
So
and how differently are we looking at New England if David Tyree doesn't make that catch?
How differently are we looking at them if Pollard doesn't take out Tom Brady's knee in week 1?
That's the thing is you
Malcolm
look back,
Smith doesn't pick the pass.
You can play what if with a lot of that stuff. If Tyree doesn't make that catch, if Pete Carroll runs the ball,
if he runs the ball, now all of a sudden we're talking about him tying Montana and then opening up the conversation, not ending it.
But it's just crazy to think. I mean, Tom Brady, like I said, I think we're gonna see vintage Tom Brady. And
I think we might.
I think Evan said Atlanta in a high-scoring game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was a
35.
If both teams score 35, which is a hefty score,
Don't
especially for the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm saying.
But if both teams score 35, I think Atlanta definitely has the advantage.
And I'm going to say 38-13 New England.
Actually, I won't even say if they both score 35. If Atlanta scores 35, I think they have it.
So what's your score prediction? What would
my
you
score is 28-14. Patriots.
40-36 Falcons.
That would be
so
not only
fun.
the greatest game that we've ever seen. That would make up for all of the playoffs being completely garbage.
Yeah.
The only the Cowboys Packers was good, and the other one was good if you weren't a Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
But Sean, you didn't give your prediction. What was it?
I did not yet. Well, I don't know who's going to win, obviously, because the game hasn't happened yet. I really want the Falcons to win, because I enjoy offense over defense, but unfortunately, defense wins championships. It's been here, as you said, 5 out of the past 6 offense versus defense matchups that were number 1 in the league. The defense has won, and I think the Patriots are going to win. I'm going to say 31-24, but it's only because the Falcons score a bit late, like a last-second touchdown to make it look a little bit closer than it is. And I don't think Tom Brady comes out and just, completely dominates, because I just don't think that's the way he plays. But I think he gets number 5, and then he just continues to do it for another, 7 years or whatever.
And I'm going to retire at 50.
And the Super Bowl MVP is?
I'm going to say even if he doesn't have a great game, they give it to Tom Brady.
I mean, if the Falcons win, Matt Ryan, obviously, he's going to be Super Bowl MVP and regular season MVP. If the Patriots win, got to give it to Tom Brady just because. How would you like to see Goodell give him the Super Bowl trophy and the Super Bowl MVP trophy?
Okay, and then I'll say if the Falcons win, they give it to Devontae Freeman. Because he had to have had a big game if they won.
I mean, maybe they can win without it. I don't think they can.
Yeah.
You don't think they can, but or if Matt Ryan just throws for 400 yards.
Yeah. Or Julio Jones receives for 438 or whatever.
Or maybe the surprise pick, Chris Hogan, making another appearance. No, just kidding. He's not going to.
Deion Lewis.
have like one catch
Deion
for 11
Lewis
yards.
returns 2 kicks for touchdowns, and he's the MVP.
No. So what do you say, Sean? MVP is?
Probably Tom if they win, and probably Matt Ryan if the Falcons win.
I mean, it's so hard to
pick.
give it to the quarterback.
Yeah, because it's so hard. Like, unless this is like a 10-7 game, you can't really give it to a defensive player because the Patriots don't have that.
That shows Super Bowl 5, folks. O'Brien
Chuck
should have won the MVP.
Chuck Alley of the losing team.
Jim O'Brien should have won the MVP. Kicked 5 field goals.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear about a team kicking.
Yeah, I don't want
a bunch of field goals right now.
I'm going to say if New England wins, it's going to be. I think you could have an offensive or a defensive MVP. I'm going to say obviously Tom Brady would be the go.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady would be the go-to if it's offensively dominated. I'm going to say Devin McCourty on the defensive side. I mean, he's a ball hawk. He's a playmaker.
And he'll have to shut down Julio.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if Atlanta wins, I'm going to say it's because of Julio Jones. Not even necessarily Matt Ryan, but it's because Julio Jones is a part of the game. And on the defensive side, Vic Beasley. I mean, he's good.
Monster.
Vic Beasley is good. If he can put pressure on Tom Brady, and that's been the secret to getting to Brady, is, we saw Justin Tuck do it. We saw Michael Strahan do it. If you can put pressure on Brady and make him react quick, then you can get it done.
Well, thank you for joining us here on the X-106 podcast. I'm Sean Nienow, and I have been joined by Evan Brown, Ryan Elliot, and Trevor Maeder. We will have another podcast up in around a week, depending on when the other group gets it. And you can follow us on Twitter at X106_sports. We're gonna put out all of our sports news there, and you can catch this podcast there. Have a good day. Bye.